Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Okay, before we get into this, I have to preface this by saying, honestly, I don't know jack all about Harry Potter. Despite being in the demographic when it came out, and my mother forcing me to read the books back in the day, I honestly don't remember much about it, but if I recall correctly, it was an overly monarchical concept about a kid who was great for being born great, not because he did great things, who never had a problem in the world because whenever an obstacle would pop up, someone else would solve it for him, and when the writer got bored of that scenario and actually forced him to get his hands dirty, a magical deus ex machina would fall out of the sky and save his ass, thus, once again, making sure he doesn't actually have to deal with any sort of issue ever. And I mean, say what you will about how I just analyzed the entire series there, that last part is just objectively bad writing. Now let's get into this, and holy crap, what is this? Okay, this game has like a dozen different language settings, including both British English and American English. Also, apparently there's two types of Portuguese? Huh. You learn something every day, I guess. When you actually get into this game, it starts off with you sitting around a shopping market, having to go pick up your wizarding gear to go to your school that you've just been allowed into. Oh, hey, this guy's gonna be super nice and give us some cards. That's pretty cool. Which deck do I want? Gregory the Smarmy. Sounds like my kind of guy. Let's go with that one. Alright, just gonna go look in my inventory at my new cards, and... What? What's going on? What? Seriously, what just happened? I don't understand. And actually, that's a pretty good summary of what this game is right here. This game is a top-down RPG type thing, but every single step of the way, in regards to every aspect of this game just sort of gleefully enjoys laughing at you while it withholds information and just isn't clear about anything. You get a new spell? Well, what does it do? Well, go use it in battle and hope you don't die testing it out. Got a new item? What does it do? Well, go use it in battle and hope it does what you hope it does. And doesn't get you killed because you thought it was an HP potion, and it was in fact a magic potion, and you end up dying like a spaz. Because yes, game, I did die like a spaz who didn't know what he was doing. Mainly because the game didn't tell me what I was doing. Even the most basic of things, like asking for directions in this game, is just weird and convoluted and never really told to you. For example, when you actually get to the school, and unfortunately I don't have any footage of this because of editing issues, when you have to go to your first class, well, your first instinct would be to ask where it is. So you go and ask the nearest person, to which they abruptly say, well, it's about as far away from here as possible. Which is actually one of the more clearer hints this game gives you, because you're on the top floor, clearly telling you it's on the bottom. I mean, come on game, just tell me it's on the bottom floor. And just to use that one example even further, talking to other characters, they will just outright ignore the question. Like saying, huh, yeah, you would be lost. Or just random stuff that doesn't tell you anything about what you're supposed to be doing. And I mean, say what you will about trying to make the player think and stuff, but there's a difference between being cryptic and just outright withholding information from the player. One of those things can be used to great effect to make a fun game that makes you think. The other is just straight up dickish. And while this game does both, it doesn't use either to any real great effect. Honestly, I think the developers were doing this either because they want to artificially inflate playtime, or alternatively, they just didn't know where you were supposed to go while they were coding the game at the time. Seriously, I'm kind of betting on the latter on this one. And the level design itself kind of leads me to suspect that further, because every floor of your tower in the school has at least like 8 entrances and exits, and about 80% of them lead to empty rooms where enemies will jump you, and in my experience, steamrolled you. That said, once you get a handle on actual combat, it's pretty fun. The enemy colors seem to designate what spells they're weak to. Your spells don't level up with your character, which is a bit odd. Instead, they level up as you use them, at least as far as I can tell, which does lead to extra grinding, which I'm not a big fan of, but what can you do? However, I have seen this game spike in difficulty within a matter of moments, from me taking out opponents in one turn to getting steamrolled in one turn myself. And the difference in levels can actually mean quite a lot, as each level seems to increase your health by like 10 points and all your other stats randomly, which in my case mostly meant 0 points. I don't know what's with the leveling in this game. Overall, from a gameplay standpoint, it's confusing, it's muddled, and it just seems like it's trying absolutely its hardest to be as convoluted for the sake of convolution as possible. But despite it being really mind-bogglingly bad at times, I did find myself enjoying the combat quite a bit once I got a handle on it. The overall presentation to Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone is kind of all over the place. I mean, you have areas where the enemies blend into the background, but then you also have awesome moments like this boat ride, which looks like a cutscene but isn't, and has this awesome background when you get into a fight. It does feel like the game is a little low on different enemy model types, but overall I think it does an okay job with that. Overall, it's okay looking. And audio-wise, like visuals, it's kind of all over the place. I mean, you have awesome music like the train music, which I've been playing this entire time, which I thought was really super catchy. And on the flip side, you have the opening title screen music, which the first time I had to listen to, I had to cover my ears because it was so painful to listen to. It does seem to like reusing the main theme, although they rework it differently into various songs, and it works much better in those different situations. Basically, in terms of presentation, when it gets something right, it gets it really right, but it likes to make a lot of rookie mistakes all over the place, and it ends up creating something that just seems kind of inferior than it ultimately could be. Now, if you want to get a copy of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone on the Game Boy Color, well, you shouldn't have to look too hard. As I understand, this game is pretty common, and a quick look on eBay tells me you shouldn't have to pay more than like $5–10 for it. It's pretty easy to get a hold of, it was a popular IP, and it doesn't seem to be remotely in demand. But I do have to thank YouTube user NicoDemR for sending this to the show, along with the sequel, which I will be covering shortly. And overall, I think you have to judge licensed titles on what they are without their license. If you took away every reference to Harry Potter in this game, would it still be a good game? And the answer is not really. It's kind of all over the map. It seems kind of buggy, unless that thing that happened in the beginning wasn't a bug, but I'm pretty sure it is, maybe. The presentation is all over the place, and while the gameplay can be fun, it seems to go out of its way to make it as daunting and uninteresting as possible. And that's frustrating because it does feel like there is some interesting core concepts in this game. Purely using magic in combat, a one-person party, being able to choose what mission you go on next. Although I think they weren't balanced properly, because I'm currently stuck in the middle of one of those actually. And an interesting world to explore, because you're a protagonist in a video game and thus forced to push the plot along, as opposed to having everyone else do everything for you. Honestly, I think video game Harry Potter is probably the one time Harry Potter ever got off his ass to do anything, and it's just a shame that it ended up being so unpolished and rough.